Hi everybody, happy Earth Day. It's Mrs. Opera again. Hope everyone's keeping safe and having a nice day. Today I've been thinking about what to do for Earth Day because as an art teacher you try to connect your students and yourself with all the events that kind of go on throughout the year. And Earth Day is kind of important this year considering what's happening in all of our lives. So I've been thinking that this week life has been a bit dark, so there's been some bad things going on out there. And so I wanted to bring a little bit of light into everybody's life and recycle stuff again, because you know how I like recycling. I've got my owl tin can holder, which I'm very excited about. It's got some of my supplies in it. So today we're going to do a tin can lantern. It's actually not going to be a tin can. It's going to be a container can lantern. You can use a tin can, but tin cans are a little bit harder to work with. And I wanted to try things that kids could manage without needing as much adult supervision. So we're going to make a lantern. And we are going to make it out of an iced tea container. Now you could use a box. I have a bigger one here. But I've got lots of little ones as well that I've been keeping. So we've got this big Adidas box. I didn't grab a little container. You could even use a Tupperware container. That would work. Just put the lid on it and use it like that. But something that the sides aren't metal or glass. So this is a used up iced tea. It's one of my favorite things in the world is iced tea. But what you'd have to do is rip off the paper. Okay, so ripping off the paper. And I have already done that to another iced tea container. I ripped off all the paper. Then what you also need is a tack, preferably one with a handle, some kind of lighting. So none of them can be lit, so they all have to be battery operated lights. So I've got some tea lights here. This, I don't even know what that is, but we've been using it over the years in pumpkins and such. If you see my classroom, I've got lots of little light sets out. This one's a battery operated one that I have out. So something that will give off light. Now because my can is quite big, I can't quite fit it in, there we go. You might need 2 lights in it. Okay, so the other thing you are going to need is some paint, and I have picked the acrylic paints in cobalt blue. So I put a whole bunch. This paint around is all dry. I put some cobalt blue in there, and it matches the lid color. The darker the paint, I think, the better, but I haven't made one before. So if you want to use more than one kind of paint, if you want to use lighter paints, if you want to use black paint, it's all kind of an experiment. Okay, so, but you're welcome to do those, use those things. So I've gone ahead and done some of the art already on here so you can see it. So here I have taken a tack, and if you can see, I have poked holes in the cardboard in the shape of a heart. And then I went on the inside and I made another little heart. And you could do more designs. I'll do some along the bottom here. I didn't draw it first, but you absolutely can draw it first. So you need to be able to hold on quite tightly so that it doesn't roll, and poke with your tack. Now these holes are a little bit small, so I've been testing to see if you can see light through them, and you can. If you have time when you poke, you might want to just wiggle it a little bit. It makes the hole a little bit bigger, so when you put your candle, your tea light, your battery operated tea light inside, it's easier to see the light through. Another thing I have is a really tiny screwdriver with a really tiny end, and I've used it as well. Especially once I've made the hole with my tack. Then on this side I went over it, and so some of the holes are a little bit bigger. So it's kind of an experiment, something that you have to experiment with. And again, you might need parent help. You might need someone to hold on to it first, or you may need your parent to do the initial hole and then you can come along and make it a little bit bigger by wiggling the tack or using something small. Even a ballpoint pen would work, or the end of a pencil. So there I have a heart. Now over here on the other side, I drew our bulldog. So you can see that this is the directed drawing I did, oh, it must be a month ago. And I've gone and I've only used a tack on this one, and I followed the line of my bulldog with the tack. I've left some space here where I haven't done it yet so that you can see me. And you can see you do have to push quite hard. Now what's happening here is the paper is starting to rip a little bit because there's so many holes in one spot. So if you look inside, you can see that that's getting a little bit weak. So so it doesn't all push in and break on me, I'm just going to support it here. Now my fingers are far away from where I am poking, so I'm not going to poke myself. But it's just giving the paper a little more support when there's so many dots concentrated in one area. From there, I'm going to do its teeth. And one more. Now, if you look at where I put the bulldog, I've kind of put him higher up on the tin can. This is the base of the can. And I'm not going to do the body right now, but you could do the body. But what happens is when you put your candles in, they go near the bottom. And so it's a bit harder to get the light, and I'll show you more of that later, up top on your bulldog. So you might want to place your bulldog, if you're just doing the head, a little bit lower to the bottom if your tea lights are short. Okay. So there's my bulldog. It's looking pretty good. Again, there's lots more space. You could work here. You could add the bulldog's legs. I'll hold on to it and let's make his big tag. That's in the drawing called that bulldogs. And again, if you can see the difference when I put this one in. And again, I've just been experimenting all day, trying to figure out the best way to present this to you. So those do make the holes a little bit bigger, so the light will seep through a little bit more. So lots of room on here to work. So once you've got your design done, and again, I probably would be adding more, you're going to paint it, because this is just kind of a plain brown cardboard, and I'm going to paint it over. I'm going to use a darker color. I'm using cobalt blue acrylic paint. I haven't experimented this, so this is going to be my first time painting. So I'm going to paint over this, and one of my concerns is that it might fill in the holes. If that's the case, once it's dry, you're going to have to carefully go and just make those holes happen again so that the light will filter through. So again, in art, we're always experimenting, and sometimes there's little blips along the way, and that's okay. If you have a blip, then we just have to work with it. So I'm loading my brush into my paint. Oh, I wanted to point out my pictures. Do you like my pictures today? I was at a staff meeting with some of the staff, and while we were doing it, guess what I do? I draw pictures. I was listening though. All right, so back to the art. So I'm just going to paint over top, and I'm not going to put globs and globs, okay, because you can see it's filling in some of the holes. But I'm going to do my best to cover it, and then I'm just going to have to work with it to see whether I have to poke all those holes again. I'm going around, painting it, trying to go quickly for you. And I do think these holes on my heart are a little bit bigger because I used the screwdriver. And I'm going to have to adjust. I'll probably make 2 videos with this one as well while I let this dry and then see what I have to do with the holes. But you can see that it's kind of pretty. It's a nice color. And you want something that will show the light. So darker colors are better, and the light will seep through, and it'll show the light better than, say, a light colored paint. So that's something to think about. So I do think some of my holes have been filled in. And so it is a bit like, you know, it takes some time and dedication, but I'm going to go through and poke those holes again so that they aren't plugged. Now, I probably very well could have painted it first before I poked the holes. So like I say, my art is always kind of, there's so many experiments, I never quite know exactly what the right process is. And so you just have to deal with that. So I'll put some tea lights in. You can see some of the lights, and yeah, I actually think that would have been a better idea to paint it first. And I'm not sure why I didn't. I just, because I was too excited to put the holes in, I wanted to see how that worked. So I'm going to pause, and I am going to make sure all the holes are not full of paint, and then I will come back with a second video to show you how to finish up. So our lanterns, we're going to brighten the world a little bit today with some beautiful light. I'll be back with all of these holes emptied of paint, and then we will finish. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in a few minutes.